Your soulmate cut someone off after finding out this about you. My beloved child. Someone disappeared from your soulmate's life today, and almost nobody understands why. To everyone else, it looked sudden, almost cold. One message was left unread. One phone call was ignored. One person who once had constant access was quietly shut out without a warning. But what no one knows is that the decision began the moment your soulmate uncovered something deeply unexpected about you. It wasn't gossip. It wasn't a rumor. It was a truth hidden beneath years of silence, and once they saw it for themselves, everything inside them shifted. The person they cut off never imagined they would lose that place in your soulmate's world so quickly. Why would discovering something about you make them walk away from someone else? That answer is still hidden, and you're only seeing the first piece of a much larger story. Don't skip. Every moment from here uncovers another clue that changes everything you thought you knew. At first, your soulmate refused to believe what they had learned. They went back over old conversations, forgotten memories, and moments that suddenly carried an entirely different meaning. Tiny details that once seemed unimportant now fit together like pieces of a puzzle they had never realized existed. Then another realization struck them even harder. Someone close had been quietly shaping the way they viewed you, planting doubts without ever making them obvious. It wasn't dramatic enough to notice at the time, but it was enough to create distance. The more your soulmate compared those old words with what they had finally discovered, the clearer the truth became. They weren't upset with you. They were devastated that they had almost believed someone who never wanted the two of you to understand each other. Stay till the end, because the next decision they made happened so fast that even the people around them were left speechless. That was the exact moment everything changed. Without announcing it or creating a scene, your soulmate made a choice that could never be taken back. They removed one person from their emotional world completely. No arguments. No dramatic farewell. Just silence, the kind of silence that says, "I finally see things clearly." But the strangest part wasn't that they walked away. It was the final sentence that person whispered after realizing they had been cut off forever. Those words weren't about revenge or anger. They were about you. Somehow, they already knew your soulmate had uncovered the truth they had tried so hard to keep buried. And if that final sentence was accurate, then someone else has been watching this story unfold much longer than anyone realizes. Something huge is waiting for you. Because what your soulmate uncovers next will reveal why your name has been at the center of this mystery all along. They thought ending that connection would finally bring peace. Instead, it opened a door they never expected to find. Within hours, another memory surfaced, one your soulmate had almost forgotten because it seemed too ordinary to matter. It was a brief conversation from long ago, a passing remark about you that sounded harmless at the time. Now it echoed differently. Every word carried a meaning that had been invisible before. Your soulmate couldn't ignore it anymore. They realized the person they had cut off wasn't acting alone. Someone else had quietly encouraged the misunderstandings from the shadows, always careful never to reveal their true intentions. The deeper your soulmate looked, the more impossible it became to dismiss the pattern. What began as a simple discovery about you was turning into something much larger, and they knew there was no going back. As the hours passed, your soulmate stopped reacting with emotion and started paying attention to facts. They revisited old messages, remembered forgotten moments, and even questioned why certain opportunities to get closer to you had mysteriously fallen apart. Every answer pointed in the same direction. The person they had removed from their life had repeatedly redirected conversations whenever your name came up, always steering them toward doubt instead of understanding. That realization hurt more than they expected, not because they had lost that person, but because they almost lost the chance to truly know you. For the first time, your soulmate admitted to themselves that they had been influenced far more than they wanted to believe. Don't skip. The next clue arrived in the most unexpected way, and it confirmed a suspicion they had barely dared to consider. Late that evening, something happened that neither your soulmate nor anyone else could have predicted. A message arrived from an unfamiliar source containing only a few carefully chosen words. There were no threats, no explanations, just one sentence that immediately caught your soulmate's attention: you finally discovered the first truth. But you still don't know why they were so afraid of you finding out. Those words sent a chill through every assumption they had made. If someone else already knew what had happened, then this story was never just about one broken relationship. It was about a secret that had been protected for much longer than your soulmate realized. And the identity of the person who sent that message could change everything in the next moment. The message refused to leave your soulmate's mind. They read it again and again, searching for something everyone else would overlook. It wasn't just the words that felt strange, it was the timing. The message arrived only minutes after they had quietly cut that person out of their life, as if someone had been watching every decision they made. That realization changed everything. Instead of deleting it, your soulmate began following a trail of forgotten moments that suddenly connected in ways they never imagined. Each memory led back to you. Not because you had caused the confusion, but because someone had worked incredibly hard to keep the truth hidden. Why would anyone go to such lengths unless they were terrified of what your soulmate would eventually discover? Stay till the end, because the next clue answered one question while creating an even bigger mystery. The deeper they looked, the more they noticed a pattern that had been invisible before. Every time your name entered a conversation, someone had always been there to change the subject, offer a misleading opinion, or create just enough doubt to delay a real connection. None of it seemed obvious on its own. Together, however, it formed a picture that was impossible to ignore. Your soulmate wasn't angry anymore, they were disappointed in themselves for overlooking the signs. They realized that the person they had trusted had never actually wanted them to see who you truly were. Instead, they had carefully controlled the story, hoping your soulmate would never ask the questions that mattered most. Don't skip. One forgotten detail from the past was about to expose the real reason behind all of it. Then came the discovery that stopped your soulmate in their tracks. Hidden among old conversations was a single forgotten sentence, so ordinary that it had been ignored for years. But now it carried a completely different meaning. It proved that long before your soulmate understood the truth about you, someone else had already known it. They had recognized your value, your character, and the connection that was slowly growing between you, and they feared what would happen if your soulmate ever saw the same thing. That fear explained why they had tried so hard to remain close while quietly pushing you further away. But your soulmate had already broken free from that influence. What they planned to do next wasn't about looking backward anymore. It was about taking a step that could bring them closer to you than ever before, if one final hidden obstacle didn't stand in their way. A quiet sense of certainty replaced all the confusion. Your soulmate stopped chasing explanations from the past and focused on one question instead: what happens if I finally trust what I've discovered? That single thought changed the direction of everything. They no longer needed the approval of the person they had cut off. They no longer cared about old opinions or carefully crafted stories. What mattered now was finding out who you really were beyond everything they had been told. As they replayed every meaningful memory involving you, they noticed something remarkable. The moments that had once seemed ordinary were actually filled with quiet signs of honesty, kindness, and consistency. Those qualities had always been there. Someone had simply worked hard to make them seem invisible. Something huge is waiting for you, because your soulmate was about to test one final piece of the puzzle. Instead of confronting anyone, your soulmate made a decision that surprised even themselves. They chose silence. They watched. They listened. And almost immediately, the people around them began revealing things without realizing it. Casual conversations became unexpected clues. Small reactions exposed hidden discomfort whenever your name came up. One person laughed too quickly. Another avoided eye contact. A third suddenly changed the subject altogether. None of those moments proved anything on their own, but together they confirmed one undeniable truth: far more people knew about the misunderstanding than your soulmate had ever imagined. The person they had cut off wasn't the only one protecting the secret. They had simply been the first domino to fall. Don't skip. The next discovery made your soulmate realize just how close they had come to believing a story that was never true. Then everything became even more personal. Late that night, while looking through something they hadn't opened in a long time, your soulmate found an old note they had written to themselves after one of their earliest encounters with you. It contained a single sentence they had completely forgotten: "There's something genuine about this person, but I can't explain why." Reading those words felt like hearing their own heart speak across time. Before anyone had influenced them, before doubt had been planted, they had already sensed the truth. That realization brought both relief and regret. Relief because their instincts had been right all along. Regret because they had allowed someone else's voice to drown out their own. But as they folded that note and held it tightly, another notification appeared. One that hinted the person they had cut off wasn't finished yet, and their next move could change everything once again. Just when your soulmate believed the hardest part was over, the silence was broken. The person they had cut off reached out one final time, not with an apology, not with anger, but with a message that carried an unmistakable sense of urgency. It simply read, "Before you make your next decision, there's something you still don't know." Your soulmate stared at those words without responding. For a brief moment, they wondered if there really was another side to the story. But then they remembered every overlooked clue, every twisted conversation, every moment that had quietly pulled them away from you. They had already spent too much time doubting what their own heart had been trying to tell them. This time, they refused to let uncertainty take control again. Stay till the end, because what happened next revealed that someone else had been waiting for exactly this moment. While deciding whether to ignore the message forever, your soulmate noticed something they had never paid attention to before. The timing of every major misunderstanding about you followed the same pattern. Whenever the connection between you seemed ready to grow stronger, confusion somehow appeared out of nowhere. Plans changed unexpectedly. Conversations ended too soon. Assumptions replaced honest communication. Looking back, it no longer felt like coincidence. It felt carefully guided. That realization didn't make your soulmate feel defeated, it made them determined. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen?" they began asking, "Who benefited from keeping us apart?" The answer wasn't obvious yet, but they knew they were getting closer than ever before. Don't skip. One unexpected encounter was about to provide the missing piece they had searched for all along. Then, completely by chance, or perhaps not by chance at all, your soulmate crossed paths with someone who had remained silent until now. This person wasn't interested in creating more drama. They quietly shared one forgotten detail from years earlier, a detail so simple that it had escaped everyone's attention. It confirmed that long before doubts had entered the picture, your soulmate had spoken about you with genuine admiration and hope. The connection had been real from the beginning. Someone had simply chosen to stand between that truth and reality. Hearing those words brought an overwhelming sense of clarity. The person your soulmate had cut off was only one chapter in a much deeper story. And just as your soulmate prepared to take the next step toward uncovering everything, they discovered there was one final secret about you that had never been spoken aloud, and that secret could change the future of this connection forever. A strange calm settled over your soulmate after hearing those unexpected words. For the first time in a long while, they stopped looking for proof that you were worth trusting. Instead, they began asking themselves why they had needed proof in the first place. That question led them somewhere they never expected. They realized the person they had cut off had never attacked your character directly. They had done something far more subtle, they had encouraged hesitation. Every time your soulmate was ready to move closer, they were quietly persuaded to wait, to question, to overthink. Looking back, it became painfully obvious that those delays had cost them precious moments they could have shared with you. But now, with every illusion falling away, they knew one thing with absolute certainty: they would never allow another voice to speak louder than their own instincts again. As that realization grew stronger, another hidden detail surfaced. Your soulmate remembered a conversation they had nearly forgotten, one that took place long before everything became complicated. Someone had casually asked, "If you ever discovered the truth about them, would you still feel the same?" At the time, it sounded like an ordinary question. Now it felt like a warning disguised as curiosity. Why had someone asked that before any misunderstandings even existed? Your soulmate began to understand that certain people had anticipated this moment long before it arrived. They knew that once the real picture became clear, their influence would disappear forever. Don't skip. The next discovery wasn't hidden in a message or an old memory, it was hidden inside your soulmate's own heart, where the answer had been waiting all along. Standing alone with everything they had uncovered, your soulmate made a quiet promise that no one else heard. They would stop judging you through someone else's version of the story. They would only believe what they experienced for themselves from this point forward. That promise changed the direction of their journey completely. Yet just as they felt ready to leave the past behind, one final revelation appeared. The person they had cut off hadn't simply disappeared, they had started speaking to someone new. And according to the first hint your soulmate received, that conversation wasn't about defending themselves. It was about revealing one last secret connected to you, a secret so unexpected that even your soulmate wasn't prepared for what they were about to hear next. The next morning brought no peace, only another unanswered question. Your soulmate couldn't ignore the unsettling feeling that the story wasn't finished. If the person they had cut off was now speaking to someone else, what could they possibly gain? Curiosity tempted them to look away, but something deep inside insisted that this final conversation mattered. They soon learned that the discussion wasn't filled with blame or excuses. Instead, it centered around one surprising admission: I never expected them to discover the truth this quickly. Those words froze your soulmate where they stood. They weren't hearing the confession directly, but the message reached them through someone who had no reason to invent it. Suddenly, every piece of the puzzle felt closer than ever before. Something huge is waiting for you, because the next sentence revealed a motive no one had seen coming. Your soulmate began connecting events that had seemed unrelated for far too long. They realized the person they had trusted had been afraid of one simple outcome. You and your soulmate forming your own opinions about each other without outside influence. That fear explained everything. It explained the hesitation, the carefully timed doubts, and the endless distractions that always appeared whenever the connection between you seemed ready to grow. The truth was never hidden because it was dangerous. It was hidden because it was powerful. Once your soulmate understood that, the weight they had been carrying slowly disappeared. They no longer felt trapped by old misunderstandings. Instead, they felt an overwhelming desire to discover who you truly were without anyone standing in the middle. Stay till the end. The final clue of this chapter changed not only what your soulmate believed, but also what they planned to do next. Then came the moment that quietly reshaped everything. Your soulmate found something they had overlooked dozens of times before, a small reminder of their very first impression of you. Before opinions, before confusion, before anyone had a chance to interfere, they had seen someone who felt genuine, kind, and impossible to forget. That original feeling had never truly disappeared, it had only been buried beneath someone else's influence. As they accepted that truth, they made one final decision. They would stop searching for answers in the voices of other people and start looking for them in real moments, real conversations, and real experiences. But just as they prepared to take that first step, an unexpected piece of information arrived from the one person they never thought would reach out, and what they revealed about your connection could change the entire story once again.